The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Shalom, salama, Siemi, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, you are grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. Yesterday, we got into the word, into some scripture regarding Ezekiel 36 and 37. And, you know, we're here in a time to where comprehending an unbelievable reality is something that we just don't do. And the reason is because we've been trained that way. It's been a conditioning. Not only has it been a conditioning, it's been a conditioning that we've gone through for over how many years? About 400 years. We literally are fighting an epigenetic thought process that has been carried down from generation to generation of a trauma. They like to talk about science, but it's so funny that they never like to apply science, especially when it's in the case of an African American, a black man, a Negro, or simply an Israelite. So now, all of a sudden, as the tables are turned, and it's turning, we're going to start to see an instability in this country like we've never seen. The reality is this: the temperature was always going to be turned up via the use of National Guard troops, paramilitary, gendarmerie, federal policing, government agencies, you name it. Why? Because, as I have stated on this channel, at least, I believe that America died on October 1st, 2025. And how can you say America died on? Because to me, either America died on October 1st, 2025, or they definitely entered hospice. They made it official that they had to enter hospice, that they had to, make sure that uh, uh, their living will was up to date. So when that moment come that folks fighting over the DNR, the do not resuscitate, or folks that just want to keep this thing breathing on life support, as it really starts to vegetate. And that vegetation occurs because there's a lot of people that just refuse to see the truth. I shout out to our African brothers and sisters on the continent and those making the channels, the content on out there. I see where they're going. I see what they're doing, but there's still, to me, as I've noticed, there's still maybe the lack of understanding, and I'm going to say the lack of understanding because obviously they're in a different position, in that spectrum of being able to see the picture. Because why? Our picture looks a lot different, in the midst of the prism than their picture at a different angle of the prism. And, for them, to me, what it seems as though they're looking at it as, well, America's going through some tough times, but black folks just stick it on out and then you'll be able to overcome, and then you'll be able to make America the America that it's supposed to be, and then we'll be able to get our visas to come over to the United States. I don't know how else to process that. Because to me, that's the processing of it. Not good or bad. I'm not going after anybody, but that's the focus that they see as, well. America's only now bad, or America only now has issues because my trip to the United States that I'm planning is now in jeopardy because of the cost of a visa. Shout out to Journey with us. I know that they were talking about the visas and things of that nature. And those are real concerns. Those are real issues, to be able to take away the ability to travel. And for a lot of our brothers and sisters over on the continent, especially what I looked at in Ghana, the next closest thing to attaining heaven was to come to the United States. And to me, that was peculiarly odd that would be the sentiment, because number one, I know that they really cannot interpret racism. They see it, they know of it, but they really can't interpret it because they've never really lived under that spectrum. Now, have they lived under an oppression? Absolutely. An economic oppression? Absolutely. You can't dispute that. Does that oppression come from the influence of Western powers? Yeah, absolutely. However, they live through an indirect system of racism, but not a direct system to where they're going to have police actively pulling over black folks. They're not going to go into a police checkpoint or stop, just being randomly waved through, and they're not in fear of not being able to drive away from that checkpoint. They're only in fear of the amount of what that cost will be to get through that checkpoint. But they'll get through that checkpoint nonetheless. They're not understanding what it means to enter a store and then being chased by the security guard that does not look like them, and then having cops called on something suspected. They don't understand what it would be to have someone say that they're in fear of their life and then be shot at a band concert, a high school band concert, because someone was having a bad day. Someone was going through layoffs. Someone was going through the reality that was becoming unbelievable to them. Last night, or yesterday, matter of fact, I was on the phone with my aunt. One aunt lives in New York, the other aunt is here in Florida. And we were discussing my dad's situation. And we had to game plan. We had to discuss what it would look like to have my dad who has issues with diabetes, who has now issues with dementia. That not only does he need care, but he needs specialized care, and that's through Medicaid. And I bring this up because I'm not the only one that is now dealing with that. We're all dealing with this. One of the things when that I had frequently discussed, just because I'm intimately familiar, I can definitely empathize with this, is medical care for our family members. To have that intensive medical care through some sort of a nursing facility or skilled nursing facility. When I was on the continent, especially in Ghana, I was very sensitive trying to look for that and trying to get an understanding of that, because we do have a lot of our people, for whatever circumstances, they would be facing their medical conditions alone. And nobody wants to be alone in facing their medical conditions. But we've had here countless numbers of people that they succumb because it's not the ailment that leads to their death. It's the loss of hope and the hopelessness and the feeling of loneliness that then leads them to give up. They comprehend their reality as a hopeless reality, and therefore they feel that their spirit can just give up the ghost. And this happens every day here. Because this is what this nation does. It consumes the hearts of men. It consumes their souls. Do we not see that in Revelation? Do we not see that in Jeremiah, literally 50 and 51? Do we not see that in how our captivity, this wasn't just a captivity of our minds. This was a captivity of our bodies. This was a captivity of our spirits. This was a captivity of our very essence. Our forefathers here in this captivity have dealt with this, have dealt with the longing of family members that had been broken apart. Now we have our family members broken apart just because of feelings and issues that aren't even really our issues. It's a artificially manufactured construct that they placed on our people. They placed that on our children. To say, well, you don't listen to me, you don't love me, you don't. That's not us. For a large majority, that's not our people. We've learned bad things here. That's all I can say. I was watching something this morning regarding Burkina Faso and how Burkina Faso's parliament, because it's not just they don't. The funny thing is, remember a couple of like last year, they were saying, "Oh, it's a dictatorship in Burkina Faso," and now it's not. Burkina Faso's parliament, they're passing laws. They're passing laws, marriage, domestic issues, family issues. Why? Because they're going to the heart and the fabric of the family because they understand that the family is the core, it is the pinnacle of society. Do you know how many families have just been ripped apart in these last 15, 20 years? If you really think about it, it was sick. And it still is sick. It's frightening. Why is that? Because they're trying to replace families with robots, literally. We discussed that a couple of days ago. Computer love. But then when you actually think about that and you break that down, how vile, how reviling. Man, now you understand why the love of many has waxed cold. Well, look, it's now in a natural love. I love my pet rock that's been fabricated into a computer chip. I love the image. The image comes on something. The image comes on some sort of a inanimate object. A mirror is literally just inverted glass with some metal in it to give it a shine that you have a reflection in. But that image can be very, very deadly because people believe what someone else either tries to show them or tries to have them perceive. Look, there's one thing in being shown, and there's another thing in terms of praying about it. I've always said on this channel, pray about it. I'm not here to get likes. I'm not here to for any type of convoluted popularity. I'm here to serve the Most High. That's it. And now, as we're seeing, really, our last, I don't know what you want to call it, moments of time in this captivity. And I say moments of time because I've always said this, and I continue to say this. We don't know the time frame of our captivity ending until we understand how they are moving, not us, them. We get a snapshot. We get a snapshot because we see them moving because they're the ones in panic. Because let me tell you, they're the ones that actually understand how long they have with us. Think about the origins of every secret society, every religious group, and things of that nature. What does it all come from? From Rome. And where does Rome sit on? Our goodly possessions that they took into their temples, our knowledge, our understanding that they used to reverse engineer. How much longer? How much longer do we have? How long do we have over them? What's our time frame looking like? Like what's our ETA until judgment? They're the ones. Like I said, they're the ones that actually truly know the time frame. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that they can model it and orchestrate it just enough that they can then have our people choose. Do you choose to flee or do you choose to stay? You know that that's going to be the decision, right? The Most High is going to collect this up. He's going to gather this up. But guess what? There's a choice. Our people could have chosen to stay in Egypt, but they made the decision to leave because why? Because they saw how the Most High had moved. So when they were told to leave, when that corridor opened up, I've always said it, it's a corridor. You're going to see the corridor open up. And now they're starting to slowly get it, but they're not wanting to say it because the moment that they say it is the moment that they release their power. The way this system works, man, the way this world works, it's truly amazing. Because when you start to understand how this thing works, look, they know. Now, don't say anything. Because when you put that on out there, you're putting that power on out there, and then you are empowering them to be who the Most High chose them to be. I know that that gets deep. That can penetrate a lot deeper. But I want to, before I go and I dove too deep into that, all I can say is listen, family, please read your word, stay in your word. Because again, The power comes from the Most High. The knowledge and the understanding come from Him and Him alone. It doesn't come from any of us here on these channels or on these platforms. All we do is just serve. All right, so this is coming from whatever this site says in Cyrillic. But this kind of goes back to what was being reported on yesterday. And shout out to our up north Israelite brother, our Maple Leaf Israelite that may not know, or maybe he does know, and maybe he's saying, maybe he's just having an identity crisis, and that's okay. We're still praying for our brother and all of our brothers and sisters that are, understanding what's happening. The media reported a fire at an oil refining plant in Bratislava. Bratislava is not Shashalambada, I believe. Shashalambada, the city in Hungary, where another oil refinery had been hit. But let's take a look. Let's do a comparison, a compare and contrast. Let's do a comparative reading. Sorry, I'm in my teacher mode. The media reported a fire at an oil refining plant in Bratislava. Here we go. The oil refinery where this combustible substance was delivered from the Russian Federation. Oh, another Russian refinery hit. Surprise, surprise. Via the Druzhba pipeline caught fire in Bratislava, Slovakia. Oh, another country. This was reported on October 22nd by Czech news portal cnews.info. A fire broke out at the Bratislava oil refinery, owned by Hungarian MOL Group. The plant processes Russian oil supplied via the Druzhba pipeline. Have you all seen? Can you all see what is happening? Can we put two and two together? Can we see that not only did they, we already know who they are, perform some sort of sabotage, acts of covert fires. Now there are sanctions that are now being leveled and imposed. When again, you had a outage, and that outage is still having problems. Don't get it twisted. It may have been resolved, and resolved means that it's at an acceptable level of operations. It may not mean that everything is fully operational. That's just, that layman's talk, unless you have done that CISSP type of training and work and things of that nature. And that's a certified information system security professional, CISSP. So you have that going on. Because why? Because the countries that receive the resources are the countries that can then be heavily influenced. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this down. Usually I'm able to get a better copy and paste on this one. It may not all fit. Oh, it does. Okay, perfect. This is the Institute for the Study of War. Warning, the Kremlin is preparing to mobilize reservists on a rolling basis to fight in Ukraine for the first time. This is as of October 13th. It says that Russia may begin to mobilize members of Russia's active reserve on a rolling basis to sustain its combat operations in Ukraine, but is unlikely to conduct a large-scale involuntary reserve mobilization to expand the size of the Russian military dramatically at this time. So why are they saying that? Because there has now been legislation for the Russian military to be deployed outside of the country of Russia, which means that then it can attack other countries if Russia feels threatened, its sovereignty feels threatened. Whole bunch of caveats. Just like right now, the United States is about to launch its campaign to fight against Venezuela, all over the guise of drugs and things of that nature. We've seen this story play itself on out quite a few times. This is as of, it's in the Washington Post, updated yesterday. Trump beats the drums of war for the direct action in Venezuela. The administration has surged warships, planes, and troops to the Caribbean for drug interdiction. Some see the ultimate goal as toppling Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. So we're about to go to war in Venezuela. What is this all indicative of? This is all indicative of a nation that is trying to strike out because it is dying. This is all indicative of what had been stated on this channel for years. There's going to be more wars because they have to strike on out, and now countries are trying to get ready to see if they're going to be on that backlash. No, you misinterpret this, Brother Richard. You have to understand, America doesn't like to fight its wars. The question that comes to mind is, what nations would come to the aid of fighting on the truth or a fight for democracy. A coalition of the willing. You see that now? America doesn't fight. America provides command and control. It doesn't fight. No, that doesn't look good. We weren't fighting. That wasn't us fighting. It was that country. Hello? Hello? Did we not see that literally last week? Last week was Pakistan. Being used. You know how crazy this is? Because they were trying to blame China. What was it back in? It was like July, August. They were trying to blame China to say that, Pakistan strikes against India was because of China. No, that was because the U.S. was putting pressure on India because of its BRICS cooperation. But it's funny how they tried to say, oh, no, that's China's fault. When you can clearly see and clearly tell that was U.S. quote unquote diplomacy at its finest. This is how that goes. They deployed those warships because you want to know why? They got to keep this oil low. And they got to keep this oil low because they have to make sure that the reality is, okay, well, gas prices are good. What are you talking about? There's economic problems. Here's reality. This economy is now crashing. And I'm not going to say this economy is now crashing. This economy has crashed. I believe that this economy started to crash sometime. That was April, when they did the whole tariffs and ports and everything else, and it just became more cataclysmic. But it was a managed crash, right? It was a managed implosion. You didn't have a lot of debris shooting out everywhere. Because at that time, the tariffs started to roll on out. Guess what else started to go down? The police presence, the National Guard presence, the ICE presence, the agency presence on the ground to do what? To quote unquote manage illegal immigration. Was it to manage illegal immigration, or was it to have the psychological impact of troops being on the ground? So when the deal goes down, that people cannot eat. When the deal goes down, that people are no longer able to survive. Well, it is what it is. You realize literally back in August they had to replace the one person. They fired them because they weren't cooking the books. Now they don't even want to report job losses. This is now the second month in a row that they don't want to report job losses. I wonder why. They don't want to import price indexes. I told you, listen, earlier this week, the Most High literally allowed us to settle on out the shipping for the detention and demurrage. 10,883 Ghanaian CDs. 2 weeks ago, as we were getting ready to settle that out, it was $920. Monday, that thing cost $1,072. A 16% increase. Which is a 16-point increase. In less than 2 weeks. That's the value of our dollar here. Because what are they doing? They're insulating us. You don't need to get visas because why? Because you're going to see your pricing parity principle at work. The reason why visas are costing these other countries so much is because they want it to be reciprocated back onto us to do what? To limit our travel. Do we all see that? Well, America did it first. Why? Because America's broke. And the only way to dissuade and discourage folks from traveling is to have these reciprocal visa restrictions. Do we all see what's going on here? Do we all see the games that's happening? America has plenty of money. Okay. If that's the case, you tell me why Florida looks the way it looks. You tell me. Why folks are leaving this place left and right, running north. You got now 14 to 15-year-olds being able to work here on the farms because they've lost so many workers, farm workers. 30 hours a week. That's pretty crazy. That's 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Especially if you're in a middle school, you get off at 5. And they said that they can work overnight. How crazy. That's not even safe. But that's comprehending an unbelievable reality. These RVs, yeah, they're out of control. They just park wherever. They're at the grocery stores or at Walmarts or at Targets. They'll park in the libraries. They'll park wherever they can. CVS's, Walgreens, it doesn't matter. This is economic slavery. That's right, Brother ASAP. This is economic slavery 2.0. Well, Vincent, that's the question. How are they going to learn? They don't need to learn. I'm in the classroom all day. They're not trying to learn. AI. AI said it. And then they're realizing AI's just been telling them lies. AI, they had a study about AI giving like news articles and trying to, interpret what was going on, and AI was lying. Because why? Because it's the programmers that's giving the information. Gee, I don't know how those programmers slant. You just certainly had Christy Nome caught trying to uh, promote AI manipulated, artificially intelligence manipulated propaganda that she posted on her official channels. How horrible is that? That's a government official. You want to know what that is? That wasn't just a I was sorry, honest mistake. No, she deleted it, didn't even want to say anything. Because why? Because she wanted it to stick. She wanted the falsehoods to stick. She wanted that imagery to stick in their minds. Like I had said, they just want to show a picture. Look, it's really black people that's the problem. Look at what they said about ICE. Look at this. Look at that. Did you hear the apologies? I never saw anything. I didn't see not one. Because why? Because that's the information war that they have on us. Oh, yeah, it's warfare. You all just didn't know that that's how warfare is. Because then they can validate their talking points. Did you see what was said and this and that? Because why? Because you're now living in some very unprecedented times. For all those that say, "Oh, they don't deport," that's right, Pastor Rick. She was painting the target. She was painting the target. Absolutely. Let me get on in here. This is from New Republic. I guess that's TNR, New Republic. Florida deletes ICE deportation records in front of journalists' eyes. The journalists reported the state government was erasing records of ICE trying to deport U.S. citizens. What? Was erasing records of ICE trying to deport U.S. citizens. Is Florida trying to hide how many U.S. citizens have been detained as part of Donald Trump's crackdown on undocumented immigrants? On Miami, New Times reported Wednesday, that was yesterday, that the Florida State Board of Immigration Enforcement removed the numbers of U.S. citizens arrested as part of law enforcement sweeping deportation efforts from its website. After the publication asked the state why citizens were being arrested in the first place. What? But everybody look at Chicago. Family, please keep me up in prayer. If you don't see me, if you don't see Brother Karras, if you don't hear Brother Karras, please just somebody send my care package to Alligator Alley. Let me blow this up a little bit so you all can see this. This was last week. As of October 14th, Florida's suspected unauthorized alien encounters dashboard have recorded the arrest of 21 U.S. citizens and another 9 who had encounters with law enforcement but were not arrested. After the outlet reached out to the board, the figure vanished. The Times reported the dashboard now shows that U.S. citizens have had 2 encounters and only 1 arrest. Gee, surprise, surprise. Oh, I look Jamaican, Trinidadian. Bohemian, Cuban. They would just deport me to a Spanish speaking country just to mess with me. I know black. I know black. I will vote for Donald Trump. Ding 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 ding. Oye. ¿Qué pasa? No, I'm American citizen. Ding 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 ding. I will vote for Donald Trump. Let me not play. I was born in Miami. Let me not play. They'll be asking, is this a real birth certificate? Are your parents really black? You look Latino to me. I am not Latino. I know I speak Spanish. Just because I'm born in Miami does not make me Latino. Oh, yeah, we're not. They hate that song. They hate that thing. But man, they're so happy singing it. Ding, 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 ding. I will vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, thank you. Now you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. Oh, All right, I'm back. Oh my goodness. I think it was Richard. They put me on time out. They didn't like that. They didn't like that. I was pressing them on them steel drums. I shouldn't have been merengueing and doing my bachata as I'm talking to you all. They didn't like that. Mm-mm. It wasn't burrito bomb. They had to. They had to. They gave me that penal empanada. The penal empanada. So yes, family. Thank you all for your support. I definitely appreciate it. You know, I'm not here to say that I'm begging, even though it may for me it I still have a complex about that, but it is to support, this channel. It is to support. Um, and when I ask for you all support, please support through Q2UA. Please support through Q2UA. Empanada magnetic pulse. As long as it's beef and chicken. Look, I don't come for me with the empanadas. They're just Spanish beef patties. That's all that is. Pate. Oh, but getting back into that, yes, family. So, um, I am trying to raise the funds. Um, I I'm gonna try to. So one of the things I'm doing right now is that I'm clamping down that time because I want to make sure that the timing is good with everything. Because to be quite honest, with the invite on out to New York, I'm not sure. Again, with the visas and things of that nature, I'm just trying to make sure that we are good to go. So I'm finalizing those administrative efforts on the background so then I can make it on out to or make it up to New York to see this person that is highly, highly influential what we are trying to accomplish in Burkina Faso. We are doing a lot of work on the back end with our Burkinabe brothers and sisters, and again, this all requires your support. You can do so at this link here. I am trying to finalize um, some things because to me it looks like we're going to do another shipping container campaign. I just want to make sure that I have the countries finalized. So yeah, listen, what do you think costs more? Costs just as much as the U.S. the U.S. military or the Department of War. It's the Department of State. It is literally the Department of State. So I definitely appreciate you all's effort. And yeah, family, definitely keep me up in prayer. I had to take my car into the shop. Glad I know some mechanics.
uh,